Next topic. Trading in video games. I want to hear you guys' stories about this. If you ever made any bad trade-ins, if you ever made any good trade-ins. The reason this comes up is because out of nowhere this week, GameStop, my bad.
Kevin and Ord's like, I'll allow you to trade your PS2s back to me.
They announced that you could you could trade in your PS2 for $25 if you also give all the AC adapter and
the accoutrements.
Yeah, and the DualShock 2, $25. If you don't have that stuff and you just have the PS2, you get $20.
Oh,
which is like,
might as well just keep it.
Yeah. So first off,
don't trade your hardware. Don't
do that. That's a dumb decision.
Don't trade your hardware.
Second off, it's like, really? Like, you could sell the DualShock 2 for more than $5 on eBay. So
laziness.
That's dumb.
You couldn't.
But yeah, no
way.
Dude, trust me, DualShock 2s are not. I mean, you cannot get them for cheaper than $5.
I'm going eBay.
Go for it.
Keep going.
I've tried it for Let's Plays and stuff. Anyways, that just blew my mind. I don't know why they did this. This seems super random because they weren't accepting trade-ins for a while.
It's because they saw demand. It's the same thing that happened with those Wii games, like where Metroid Prime Trilogy and Xenoblade and like some other Last Story. I think like these games, like there was like this crazy demand where people were getting mad at GameStop for selling some of these used copies for a lot of money, and they're like, there is demand, like, and we are a company that makes money. So I think that when they shut off the PS2 spigot, as it were, like when it was like 2012, I think they were like, we're not taking anymore. It's probably because they had a shit ton of PS2s.
Yeah,
what are we gonna do with all these? And then they were like, oh, we need more now, and so they're just replenishing the stock because people there is a lot. We're all kind of old, and I think that we take for granted the fact that it's amazing to me because I remember getting my PS2 when it came out and like it was yesterday, but there are people that did not experience that console.
Yeah.
And so there's some interest in it.
And they're not bringing them to PlayStation now, so fuck it.
Also, like I think there's a major thing, like if you've got kids, right, and you don't necessarily have a ton of money and you can't be affording to buy your kid a PS4 and every new game that comes out, you can buy 50 games for the PS2 with the amount of money you'd spend on like a year's worth of a year's worth of PS4.
Something I'd be really interested to see is the reason that the PS2 now has a resurgence because those games are really hard to play anywhere else. Like you can't download the majority of those games.
Yeah, the vast majority.
PS1 classics, those are a thing. You can download majority of the PS1 games in some form or another. But I think PS2 is way more of like you need those discs.
Yeah, you need
like the majority of the PS2 games I would want to go back to, there is no way for me to play it because it's not backwards compatible and you can't download it and all this stuff.
I'm so glad I didn't trade in all my PS2 games. I kept all of them.
Yeah, by that generation I had smartened up because to your question, I had a catastrophic blunderous encounter at EB in 1997.
We've all been there.
And I wanted a PS1 so bad, so I can play Final Fantasy 7. And it was the summer. It was before Final Fantasy 7 even came out. And I traded most of my Super Nintendo games to get it.
My heart's breaking right now.
So I had just awesome, like an awesome SNES catalog. And I went back and bought them again later when I had more money. But it was like that was so stupid. Yeah. You know, I wish someone was like, what are you doing? Like the people at the store being like, why are you selling? We're giving you $10 for Final Fantasy 3. We're giving you $12 for, Chrono Trigger. We're giving you $8 for, Robo Truck, whatever random ass games I had.
And then you're paying like $60 to get it back 5 years later. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, Jesus, like, I'm glad I got my PS1 because that was really a game changing moment for me. No pun intended. But I'll never forget that. I was like, why did I do this? Why did I do that? And I remember the rule being, I was so excited because they would give you no less than $5 for your games. That was like a rule there.
Things have changed.
And I had NHL 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, like Madden games, like all these data games. And I'm like, and I was making like a shit ton of money off of these, but then it would balance out by me getting nothing for these Squaresoft and these NX games made by Quintet and all these great defunct developers.
Sure.
Plus my first party games and stuff. So it was, I'll never forget that. That was terrible. And that really taught me my lesson because that was in 8th grade or me going in 8th grade. And by 9th grade, I had started going on eBay and collecting games again and like getting them all. And I never sold my NES games. Thank God I wasn't that stupid. But I started having to collect them again and how much money I lost because I already had them.
Yeah.
God,
man, I have so many trading stories. Like my life was trading in games to get new ones and stuff. And I made so many bad decisions. Like I did that so many damn times. It's like you'd think I'd learn, but I didn't.
But you had to do it. I did the same thing. It was the way to stay current. There was no other way. You know
unless you were incredibly rich or your parents were.
Yeah, or your parents were. My parents were like, "Nah, I'm not buying this."
I got 3 games a year if I was lucky. I go on for my birthday, I go on for Christmas, and my brother go on for his birthday.
So
that was the deal.
I think that the best trade I ever made, and this is blasphemy to most people, but I had an extra copy of I had Pokemon Blue and Pokemon Red that someone like gave me at some point, and I traded it in for Star Wars Episode 1 Racer on the N64. But I had another one, so I was fine with that. And that was my favorite trade because I was like, I actually really enjoyed that game. Right. And I had a lot of fun with it, but I made some really bad decisions. I got a PS2, and I had no games. Because that was the deal. Mom was like, I'll get you the PS2, but like you need to wait on the games. And it's like, well, that sucks. And I really wanted a game so badly that I traded in multiple N64 games for Crazy Taxi. Because it was one of the cheap PS2 games, just because I wanted.
Oh, you played on PS2?
Yeah.
That's where I played too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I had the blue bottom. It's like not even a real PS2 game. It was one of those stupid CD ones. Yeah. It's like, come on. But yeah, I did that, and that was just such a stupid decision, and that I immediately regretted.
Here's what I want to talk about. And I know I'm not among... You'll throw me to the fire. Was it really a bad decision?
Yeah, it was.
Why?
Because I'm like Colin. I go back and I'm like, I've rebought so many of those games just because I like collecting these things.
I think I know what you're getting at, though. Like, these things can weigh you down if you have, like, 20 years worth of video games, like, clogging up. Mm-hmm. Like, in my house... I live with my partner who is 42 years old, and oh my god, so many video games. Just boxes of like ancient computer shit, and it's all rubbish mostly. And I'm like, seriously, can we pair that? Because I pared my collection down to like my best games, the ones I don't want to get rid of, and then I got rid of the rest. And I have like a nice 4-shelf, still too many, 4-shelf kind of thing. But from now on, like I'd be quite happy from this day forward to never buy another physical game again. Quite happy to download
absolutely.
This. But with him, he's got like years and years and years and years and years worth, and he never traded anything in. And he hoarded all of it, and I kind of get where you're coming from because it does start to.
It's one of those things where you like at our house, right? Like I have the Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation 1, the double disc set. I have Spider-Man from Neversoft. I have like Genesis Spider-Man. Then I have like a bunch of different Ghostbuster ones, right? But most importantly, Ghostbusters on Sega Master System, which is this defining thing for me, and Ghost House and stuff like that. Like these are sentimental things. Like, you know what I mean? But like I traded in everything, and I know at my dad's house there's still a box somewhere that has all of my Master System games in it. No Master System, we sold that at a garage sale, but that's there. But my Genesis collection's gone. When N64 No Mercy reset on me on the third cart for like the 7th time, I traded it all in and got my PS1 and then traded that all in. And, for me, it was like wiping the slate clean to go, just because I never go back. You know what I mean? Like I'm not somebody who's like, oh man, I really want to play Final Fantasy whatever today, or I want to play.
I am that guy. I love going back.
That makes sense. It's just a different thing of like.
But you know, a lot of the time, like my games that I have now, they sit on the shelf for 9/10 of the year, but then very occasionally, like we do these Kotaku UK game nights now. Where I live in England, in Brighton, we do them in London as well, and we have games spanning the whole history of games there. So we'll have like Sports Friends and Towerfall on the PS4, but then I can bring like Amplitude, my PS2 version of Amplitude. I can just pluck that out and be like, we're setting that up over here, and I've got my massive N64 collection, and I often put like something just random on in the corner, and people can explore that, and that's the time that I'm pleased that I've still got them. But a lot of the time, I'm like, do I really need this copy of Red Faction Armageddon? Like, am I ever gonna? I'm never gonna play that again. So I agree with paring down.
Yeah, so that was the thing. So the PS2 era, like to get my PS3, I had to trade in a ton of games, and I schemed the living shit out of GameStop, and it was awesome because I like piled deals on top of deals on top of deals, where it was like the 50% trade in. There was a bonus if you're this Power member or whatever. I ended up like doing a really good deal, and I got my PS3 and Metal Gear Solid 4. But I did have to trade in like half my PS2 collection, and that was the first time where I was like, I'm not trading everything. So I kept my Amplitude, I kept my Final Fantasy X, I kept NBA Street Volume 2.
Of course.
Like these games that like meant something to me.
Sure, you were another of the 800 people that bought Amplitude.
Yeah, exactly, right?
So the odds of this are so
low.
Love
Amplitude. But I kept those games because they meant something to me, but then there was a ton of other ones that I traded. And some of those I do regret now. Like I went back and I was like, I randomly want to play Onimusha 3.
Sure.
And it's just like, fuck, I don't have it.
The worst Onimusha game.
No.
The only one the only game I ever rebought, traded in and then rebought later was Spider-Man 2 on PS2. Because I'd played it, I'd done everything, and then I was like, whatever. And then I went out for a summer to an internship in D.C. And I would just come home on the weekends and like, there's nothing really to do or whatever. And I'd just be like, kind of feel like just swinging around New York. Just like doing stuff, and like that's what I would do. I went out, rebought it, came back, thinking Budweiser, drink and swing.
Saying the scheme story right there, it reminded me of my ultimate video game scheme that I ever pulled off.
Yeah,
was EB was doing a thing when the PSP came out, where you can trade in 3 current gen games, which at the time was Xbox, GameCube, PS2, and you can get a PSP game, and I looked at the list and I did a lot of research of what games you could trade in and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's the cheapest game you can possibly get to trade in? And, you know, obviously at that point, they wouldn't let you do what you did with, like, every sports game because, like, they just would give you nothing for it. And
Yeah.
like,
20 cents.
Yeah, so it excluded everything. But I found out that 9 Shots Outlaw Golf Holiday Edition was the cheapest game you could get for $1, and they would let you do this. And I found the only place that sold it was a Blockbuster exclusive. So I went to every Blockbuster that was like anywhere in the area, and I bought every copy they had.
How many?
And I mean, I don't remember, but it got to the point where I think at the end, I guess.
Are we talking dozens?
Or like 6?
It was enough that I got every single PSP launch game. And I got so many PSP launch games extra that I traded those in to get the PSP.
Oh!
So for like $60, I got a PSP and all the launch games.
Damn,
I had a
dude.
good scheme.
It was
Junior.
awesome.
I had a good scheme when the Dreamcast went, because so my local game, which was EB in the UK, my local game was selling Dreamcasts for £20, which is nothing, and so basically I bought a bunch of Dreamcasts, like traded in Dreamcasts, and then the other place down the road was buying Dreamcasts for twice as much. So I traded in all these Dreamcasts again. I got like 4 of them, and then I traded them on. I kept 1. And then the other thing, which was the same year, was that they had a thing where they were getting rid of N64 stock. And so from their catalogue, you could buy any N64 game for £5, which is nothing. And I went for like the rarest ones, and they had like 4 copies of Conker's Bad Fur Day left. And then the same store was buying them for £25.
Same store.
Yeah, and I literally went to the store to pick up these 4 copies of Conker's Bad Fur Day, picked them up, went thank you very much, and then just went to the counter and was like, I'd like to trade 3 of these in, please, for £60. It was great.
Damn.
That is
Good scheme.
awesome.
That's a good scheme.
The
Man.
schemiest one I ever did, and it was dirty and filthy, and I shouldn't have done it. But in Colombia, I had my PS2, and like I'd already bought it. I had my PS2 and it was failing. It was dying or whatever. The disk drive was dying, and so it only read the blue bottom things because I had a copy of The Sims.
That happened to me.
So what I did is I took it to the Tiger Pawn, the pawn store. I was like, hey, I want to pawn this PS2 in this game, and they tested it with that game.
And it worked.
Works great, and took
Yeah.
it. And I was like, I'm so.
That happened to me.
Disgusted.
I couldn't play God of War on my PS2.
Yeah.
No, God of War 2. By the time that came, it just wouldn't read.
Yeah.
There was this thing you could do to make your PS2 region free without chipping it, which was like, I can't remember what it was called, but it was a stupid piece of plastic with a hook on the end, and you had to like
pull out the disc tray.
You had to like jimmy the front off the disc tray and then like put this bit of plastic and just root around in there.
Magic Gate.
Yeah, that's
I think
magic.
it was called.
Magic. I can't remember.
For us, it was
Magic
called
Hook.
Magic Gate.
And you'd pull it out. Like, this is how I played Guitar Hero, because Guitar Hero didn't come out for ages in Europe, and it was my favorite game of ever. And yeah, I totally ruined my PS2 doing that. Just like jamming, like drunk, trying to play Guitar Hero. Like, just move it around a bit. Just pull it out. And yeah, my PS2 didn't last very long.
Yeah, it's funny that the shady shit you had to do to your consoles to get them to play the games you wanted them to play. 'Cause I still remember getting this thing on PS1. I don't remember the name of it, but it was like a thing you put in the back port, and then you had to take a spring and put it onto the hook so that you can leave your lid open. Then you had to put like a...
You could use a matchstick, couldn't you, for the PS1?
I guess like the whole thing was to make the lid stay open so that you could read an American disc. And then when it started the PS1 thing, you would take it out and put in the European or Japanese disc, and then it would just continue as if it had already like read the thing or whatever. I'm like, so weird. Like,
I think you could do that with a matchstick. I seem to remember like propping up various bits of console with matchstick. I can't remember if it was like Dreamcast or PS1 or what.
So it's so like, the good news is that you really don't have to do that shit anymore to play the games you want to play.
These are all stories everyone watching is like, God, tell us about the war or something, old people. God, with your matchstick.
Whatever. Oh, but I just want to say really quick, just as distressing as that Super Nintendo to PlayStation story was, I didn't understand that CDs could not save. Like, you couldn't save your game in CD.
Oh, man.
And I remember being all set up, and Final Fantasy VII came out, and I was like, why can't I save my game?
Oh, man.
And it was like, I needed a fucking memory card. And I was like, I have no money left. I have no games to trade left. And I remember begging my parents, being like, listen, guys, like,
I made an error.
I can't, I went through this whole fucking ordeal, and I can't play this game now. I need a memory card.
That's such a tragedy.
And I was like, oh,
They buy it for you?
yeah. They did. But it was like the bootleg one, not the PlayStation one.
My first PlayStation one had a fucking giant basketball on it. I'm like, God damn, like a 3D basketball.
My PS1 one was the blue EA Sports one. The guy had to be like, no, it's from Mad Catz, but it will save your game. Like, you sure? I'm like, all right.
God, remember all those like junky third-party controllers used to be just terrible, like a turbo button.
Yeah, there's always a turbo button, and it only helped in Final Fantasy X getting Lulu's special weapon.